Our opening words this morning are entitled, Know This, by Chad Snyder. The title is called Know This, so Chad's getting ready to tell us something. You can tell. Know this. It's going to tell us this one thing that's important. Are you ready? Know this. We truly know far less than we think we do. But let us know this much. We are not alone. In our joy, in our loss, in our quiet, daily, blessedly ordinary moments, we are not alone. A small truth, maybe, in a vast and rapid world, but let us hold that truth and trust it as we hold and trust the joys, the sorrows, and the moments shared in this space that we make holy. Know that. The author here points to a small truth in a vast and rapid world. A rapid world. Anyone else experiencing the world as rapid recently? Yes, it is a rapid world. And in this box contains the current events from the last week. Right here, in this one little box. Shall we see what it has to say? All right. Maybe we won't do current events today. Maybe we'll take a week off from current events and talk about history. Unitarian history. How about that? The Unitarian Controversy. But surely it wasn't all... Oh, yeah, okay, all right. I'm assuming that was a clap for the week off, not necessarily digging into Unitarian history, but I'll take it. But surely it wasn't all bad. Let me just look smaller. Okay. Okay. I got a little something there. Butch Whitmore and Sonny Williams, the two astronauts that are stuck up in space for months and months and months on end. Well, 4 astronauts docked to the space station yesterday, so they're on their way home eventually. So that's some good news for the week. I actually turned to Chayla this morning in the office. I said, "What's some good news from this last week?" And she goes, "I got nothing." So okay, here's one. Stephen has something. Yeah, I don't know. What is it? The clouds moved away for the lunar eclipse. We will take it. We will take it, and we are glad that you all are here on this morning. You have braved what we call church death weather this morning. People will brave snow. People will come in the rain. But will people come when those two combined forces into a slush? Often not. So we are glad that you all are here. We welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Central Oregon, where we do the work of discerning and living love each week, and hopefully throughout the week as well. We welcome you here no matter your life story, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your age, no matter your gender identity, your gender expression, or your sexual orientation. We welcome you here no matter the resources you have in your bank account, where you live, how you live, as long as you live in a way that is moving towards, called towards, discerning love. We welcome you here as we do that work together. Let's join in our opening hymn. David's going to lead us, and I'll warn you, in this hymn, For All That Is Our Life, there's that part at the end where you hold the note, and the piano goes, doo-doo, doo-doo, and then you come in with the last beat.
Please rise and embody your spirit. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good. And make our own days voices we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift, which we are called to use, to build a common good, and make our own days glad.
Good morning. I'm Steve Perry.
I'm Brenda Perry.
We'll do the chalice lighting this morning. As the chalice is lit, let us come together into this sacred space we have created. Let the cares of the day fall away and know that here is a place for quiet reflection, for a pause in our lives, for breathing into our true selves. Let what is said and felt here add richness to the dimensions of our lives and spiritual practices. We are strong together in community. We share the experience of being human. Let the warmth of the chalice lit during our time together connect us and carry us into the world.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the stream, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning. My name is Amy Brock, and I'm the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth. And it is time for our Time for All Ages. So if you are young or young at heart, you can find your way to the rug. And this month, we've been exploring trust. So think about one thing that is important to you when you are trusting. What is something that is important to you when you think about trusting? What's something that's important when you think about trusting? Family. It's important to trust our family. Yeah, people that we know. What's something, you think of one more thing that's important? Chickens.
Chickens are?
Did chickens trust you? Yes.
And in this economy, chickens are very important.
They are.
And we trust that they will keep on chickening and doing their job. That's right. Sometimes chickens might trust you won't cook them if you're a vegetarian. That would be true. All right, so we're talking about trust and love. And so Unitarian churches back in like the 1700s, long time ago, right? Very long time ago. Well, there were Unitarian churches back then. And when they were trying to figure out how to organize themselves and what to believe and how to love, they said, now get this, it's kind of strange. They said the most important thing to do is to walk together. That's kind of strange, huh? Walking together, they said, was the most important thing to do with these churches. They weren't worried about what you believe, they said walk together. So, I don't know. Y'all want to try it? You want to walk for a second? Let's try it. Okay, you don't have to. If you would like to walk with me, we're going to take a quick walk just around the sanctuary, okay? All right? Okay, come on. Jackson, you want to come with me? Okay, all right. We're going to take a walk. We're going to put this to a test. See if these old Puritans knew what they were talking about. All right. So, how's your week? What'd you do? Anything happen this week?
No.
No? Nothing
I
happened?
just received a package on Friday.
You got a package? What was in the package?
I went skiing and I went on an $80 Lego Titanic.
Oh, you got a Lego set,
I went cross-country skiing.
and you went skiing. That's
Field trip I went.
fantastic. What did you do this week?
I sampled car.
You what?
My dear sample car.
Something about a car?
Oh, play with his car.
Oh, played with your cars. Fantastic. How's your week? What'd you do?
Good.
School? Okay, that sounds nice. In school, you did school too. So we got to put some Legos. How'd the Legos make you feel? Was that fun?
Well,
Yeah. You played with cars, sounds like. More Lego sets? Yeah, and you. How about you, Nev? How was your week? Yeah? What made it good? You went skiing? Okay, 2 people went skiing. Was that fun? Anybody have any hard times this week? Anything bad happen?
Well,
How are your feelings this week? Yeah.
I'm feeling very happy.
Okay. Anybody have any rough things happen this week? Anything rough happen?
I never had any bad things happen.
I'm on spring break now.
You're on spring break. That's nice. Okay. You have anything? Just good week. Anything hard? Yeah. It probably does. Probably sounds like them. Do you have a good week? Anything hard happen? No. Had a paper due. Okay. So we had a good job. Okay. All right. Now let's go. We'll go back down there. We'll just sit back down. We'll see if this worked. All right. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Susie, good week. How was your week?
Oh, I'm busy.
Okay. All right. All right. We'll just go sit down. We'll see. Do you need a seat? All right. Let's see here. All right, you all. Well, we did it. We
Made it
walked
back.
together. Did we find any profound truths, do you think? We did.
You found a profound truth.
Chris, what did you find? What profound truth did you come upon that? You found happiness on that walk. Yeah, that's nice. Anybody else have any insights from our walk together, Jackson? Yeah, what'd you find? How was your walk? Was that fun? Yeah? Yes. He just said yes. Yeah, it was fun. Jackson, how about you? Anything?
Good.
It was good. Okay. Huh.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, you didn't say, well, you said,
I didn't say good. I just said good.
oh, okay, good. The beginnings of good. Right. We're not going to commit quite yet.
Well, you were smiling a lot.
Yeah, you're
you
smiling
seemed
a
like
lot.
you were
Yeah, right.
enjoying moving around.
All right, so I'm confused. I gotta admit, I'm kind of confused. We did it. We walked together, and I didn't receive any like gigantic insights from above on the truth of the universe and love and the nature of all things. And yet we did exactly what they said. But you know what? I heard from some of you. You're on spring break and you're having a fine week. You're at school and we're excited about some Legos. And a couple people went skiing. And I now kind of checked in with you about your week, and I know how you're doing. And we were kind of together in a community as we were doing that. So actually, I do kind of feel like I know. I checked in with each of you about your week, how you're doing. I asked, are things going well or not? Everyone said, yeah, it's a pretty good week. So, more joys than sorrows this week, and that's,
Good.
So I feel closer to you all after having taken that walk together. And it wasn't anything incredibly profound, but we did that. And I think that might be what they were getting at. Not that gigantic truths from on high, if we walk together, will come down, but we will kind of just share and experience our life together. It happened to be a lot of more joys this week of what was going on, but it might not have been that way. It might have been sorrows. And if someone had been having a hard time, we might have been able to discern what it was or what the path of love might be. Or we could even do that now. What is love? What's something that represents love in your life? Anything. Anything. What is it? Honesty. Okay. Marky. Sometimes it's an interpersonal love, right? What else represents love?
Love.
Connection and love itself. Right. So that's, I think, what they're getting at too. That we kind of ask each other this question of what is love as we're living our lives and doing our work together. So maybe they didn't mean, I get it. Oh, this is kind of silly. I'm embarrassed. I don't think they meant actually walk together. I think they were using an example or a metaphor. I don't think they meant we have to walk together. I think they meant live our lives together in a way that we're sharing them and being curious about love and how to be together. We did it. And it worked walking, but I think they were talking about something bigger, which is to live our lives together, to walk together. I think they were using an example. So it works to walk together. So if anybody ever wants to walk together, we can do that as well. But I think by walking together, they just mean live our lives together. And that is how they decided that we could come across the larger truths of the world, by simply walking together or being together. And so we are grateful that you all are here with us, to walk together with us, to be with us as we live our shared lives.
I would imagine that we could probably make some puzzles or do Legos too. Do you think that would be the same as walking together?
I think puzzling, Legoing, cooking, sewing, gardening, all these things could count as walking together. Yep.
Well, maybe we'll find some new ways to walk together when
All right.
we go to
Sounds good.
explore in RE today. But before we go, we need to say the Children's Covenant. Let's do it together. In this place I am kind. In this place I am loving. In this place I am a friend to the earth and all animals and people. In this place I am loved.
If you want to join together and make an arch for our kids as they go to their religious exploration classes.
All my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
This is Chayla Sloper here, live to you today at UUFCO. I'm the Congregational Life Facilitator, and I have today's announcements. I want to especially welcome those who are newer to the congregation, whether this is first, second, 10th time. And there are a couple of things happening this week that I want to point out, especially for you. And then, of course, a welcome, as has been said, to everyone here and to those who are on Zoom. But for the newcomers, this Tuesday night at 6 p.m. at the Commons, we will have our UU Chat. So this is a gathering with Reverend Scott, and I will be there as well. This is Tuesday night at 6 p.m. at the Commons, which is down near Mirror Pond, near Drake Park, downtown. So that's at 6 p.m. And then on Wednesday morning at 9:30 at McMinimans in the smoke room. So if you go into the restaurant, it's sort of back behind, it's in the far corner. So this is especially for newcomers. If you'd like to meet the minister, bring your questions, meet some other folks, because it can be quite a sea of anonymity until you make some connections with others. So please think about joining us. Yes, others can come too, but this is really for, it's really intended for the newcomers. I do want to say that for everyone in the congregation, this Thursday night is the gathering that we will have. We had one last month where we were looking at the serenity prayer as kind of a guide for how to deal with the circumstances that we have no control over. And so this Thursday night, we just want to have an opportunity to come together to say what's on our hearts and minds. If there is distress that you'd like to share with fellow congregants or anything that you know. I mean, this is just like I say, it's a campfire without the campfire. So please come. I think we'll probably be in the sanctuary again. There was quite a number who came last month. So a couple other things relative to the whole congregation are, if you are not a member yet, if you have not signed our membership book, we have membership classes coming up on April 1st and 8th. There's a sign up at the kiosk. And then also, I'm recruiting folks for the connections team. In other words, if you would like to be a designated mixer on Sunday mornings, especially to reach out to those that are new to the fellowship, we need you. So talk to me. Okay. Here's some other announcements. Today, after the service, our Leadership Development Committee invites you to the Linus Pauling Hall. There's going to be a casual conversation about leadership. Apparently, at the collaborative that was in January, people were asking for time to just come and share their experiences, their challenges, and so that'll be in Linus Pauling about 11:20 or so, but just you can go there after you get your coffee. And then also later today, our environmental justice team is hosting the statewide Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon Interfaith Earth Summit. So if your plans to be out in the garden have been thwarted, you might think about coming to this if you'd like to learn about some local things that we might do to help mitigate impact on our beloved Earth. Tomorrow is the deadline for signing up for the women's gathering. It's an exciting gathering this year. We're going to have a longer time, Friday evening, and then all day Saturday. And there's information in the ACE, but tomorrow is the deadline. So look in the ACE, the all congregation email, for the link, and then sign up, register there. And if you need any help, feel free to email me and we'll connect you up with that. Let's see. Tuesday night is the men's fellowship gathering, and other things are in your skyline, so please do take a look. And despite the weather, blessings on your day.
Would you all like an excuse to listen to some nice music and have Debbie play the piano? Wouldn't that be lovely? I wonder how we could make that happen. Oh, I know. If I say we're going to take the morning offering, then Debbie will play the piano for us. Because we want to hear Debbie play the piano, we will now take this morning's offering to support the work of this congregation. Joys and sorrows and gratitudes, we all have them in different capacities every single week of our lives. In fact, every single day of our lives, I imagine that a joy or a sorrow or gratitude pops up somewhere. And because that is the case, we share those here in this fellowship. If there's a joy or a sorrow or gratitude in your heart that you'd like to light a candle for, please feel free to do so. They're on the sides of the sanctuary. And I'm going to read our written joys and sorrows and gratitudes. These forms are in our kiosk. And if you'd like to have a joy or sorrow or gratitude read for our congregation aloud, please just fill one of these out and either put it back in the kiosk or give it to an usher. Well, Sue Wilhelm shares that I am sad for my sister's death so soon after Mom's passing. I'm also grateful for their beautiful spirits and that they are released and that I have the resources to travel again to Illinois to celebrate Jane. Thank you, Sue. Chayla Sloper, who you saw earlier, shares that I always enjoy bumping into congregants out in the world. On an evening walk last Sunday, I had a wonderful, interesting street corner conversation with a congregant who I also found out is a neighbor. Duncan Brown shares that last week, Lynn Matai went through emergency surgery. She's out of intensive care, but remains in the hospital, probably for the remainder of the week, until she's recovered enough to come home. Megan Hooker shares, this week, I'm in New York with my mom for extensive medical testing, with Monday the 17th and Thursday the 20th being the biggest days. I'd appreciate your good wishes throughout the week and on those days in particular. We're thinking about you, Megan, and if you're on Zoom, sending our love. And Christina Ziegler shares a gratitude. I am so very grateful for every single moment that I had for nearly 15 years with my sweet cat, Snowflake. She crossed over Thursday gently and at home. 15 years is a long time to share the companionship of a furred friend. Our thoughts are with you, Christina. We'll invite you just to remain seated, and let's sing a prayerful song together as we find a stillness within us. Debbie's going to play this one time through for us to get the melody, and then David will lead us in singing the song. Thursday mornings, we started doing this thing at 9 o'clock on Zoom called Lectio Divina. It's a prayerful way, a thoughtful and reflective way of reading poetry. It's been used to read scriptures or religious text, and we're using poetry as our text on Thursday mornings. And someone said, what is that thing you all do on Thursday mornings, Lectio Divina? Well, it only takes us half an hour. We're really efficient because it's not a large sharing. It's just meant for a personal point of exploration. And we thought we would just share with you the poem that we did last week and to show you how it works. So we're going to read this poem 3 times. I'll read it through this first time. And as I read it, just let the words kind of wash over you. And if there's a word or a phrase that for some reason, for whatever reason, stands out to you, just take note of that phrase and hold it inside of you. And then we'll read it 2 more times with different instruction. Let's take a deep breath, too. I'm going to take a deep breath before I read. This is a poem called The Most Important Thing by Julia Fehrenbacher. I am making a home inside myself, a shelter of kindness where everything is forgiven, everything allowed, a quiet patch of sunlight to stretch out without hurry, where all that has been banished and buried is welcomed, spoken, listened to, released. A fiercely friendly place I can claim as my very own. I am throwing my arms open to the whole of myself, especially the fearful, fault-finding, falling apart, unfinished parts, knowing every seed and weed, every drop of rain has made the soil richer. I will light a candle, pour a hot cup of tea, gather around the warmth of my own blazing fire. I will howl if I want to, knowing this flame can burn through any perceived problem, any prescribed perfectionism, any lying limitation, and every heavy thing. I'm making a home inside myself where grace blooms in grand and glorious abundance, a shelter of kindness that grows all the truest things. I whisper, hallelujah, to the friendly sky. Watch now as I burst into blossom. If there's a word or a phrase in there that stuck out, just take note what that is, what's speaking to you today. And Wendy will read our next time through. And this time, she's reading, try and find or locate something that's real to you, of the senses, something that speaks to our bodily and physical and sensational world, or maybe something that resonates in your particular and personal life. What is something that is alive and real and tangible, a smell, a taste, a touch, a color, something like that?
So my name is Wendy. The most important thing. I am making a home inside myself, a shelter of kindness where everything is forgiven, everything allowed, a quiet patch of sunlight to stretch out without worry, where all that has been banished and buried is welcomed, spoken, listened to, released. A fiercely friendly place I can claim as my very own. I am throwing my arms open to the whole of myself, especially the fearful, fault-finding, falling apart, unfinished parts, knowing every seed and weed, every drop of rain has made the soil richer. I will light a candle, pour a hot cup of tea, gather around the warmth of my own blazing fire. I will howl if I want to, knowing this flame can burn through any perceived problem, any prescribed perfectionism, any lying limitation, every heavy thing. I am making a home inside myself where grace blooms in grand and glorious abundance, a shelter of kindness that grows all the truest things. I whisper hallelujah to the friendly sky. Watch now as I burst into blossom.
So Chandra's going to read it through us one last time. And this time, just take the poem as a whole and ask yourself, what is it that this poem is inviting me to consider and carry into my day? What is speaking to me in this poem that I might carry with me as I go about the rest of my time on this day?
The most important thing. I am making a home inside myself, a shelter of kindness where everything is forgiven, everything allowed, a quiet patch of sunlight to stretch out without hurry, where all that has been banished and buried is welcomed, spoken, listened to, released. A fiercely friendly place I can claim as my very own. I am throwing my arms open to the whole of myself, especially the fearful, fault-finding, falling apart, unfinished parts, knowing every seed and weed, every drop of rain has made the soil richer. I will light a candle, pour a hot cup of tea, gather around the warmth of my own blazing fire. I will howl if I want to, knowing this flame can burn through any perceived problem, any prescribed perfection, any lying limitation, every heavy thing. I am making a home inside myself where grace blooms in grand and glorious abundance, a shelter of kindness that grows all the truest things. I whisper hallelujah to the friendly sky. Watch now as I burst into blossom.
Thank you, Chandra. Thank you, Wendy. So in our practice, we would, have a time to share after each one of these, but there's a lot of us, so we're not going to do that in this space. It would take us more than the half an hour that we allot for our Lectio Divina time. So instead of that, let us find that stillness, find that home within ourselves, and enjoy the comfort, the solace, the introspection, the space of some shared silence together. Thank you, choir, for that song of unapologetic hope. I can use some of that right now. Well, you all know how to get a bunch of 19th century Puritans all worked up, right? Don't you? I mean, all you got to do is bring up the Hollis Endowed Chair at Harvard University. Am I right? I mean, Dr. Tappan was a Trinitarian, Henry Ware was a Unitarian, and boy, how do you bring that up in mixed company? Tempers are going to rise. Am I right? Am I right? Or maybe we need a little more context for that. All right? All right, let me back up then. All right, this is the story of the Unitarian Controversy. And as I say that out loud, the word controversy doesn't really sound as dramatic as maybe they thought it did back then. It sounds like a polite disagreement, perhaps. But it wasn't polite. It was impolite. That's what makes it controversial, you see. This is the story of the churches in 17th century Puritan New England. And it is from these churches that the Unitarian controversy arose. For you see, during the Great Migration in 1630, there were about 20,000 English Puritans settled in New England at the time. They came to this new-to-them country and established independent parish churches. This was what they had dreamed of doing, to establish churches that had no ultimate power and authority above them. That's what they were leaving England for their new England. And they established these churches, all independent, and they practiced a form of church governance called congregational polity. That's right, if your ears are burning, congregational polity is the same kind of polity we practice today. So what this meant was, as we practice today, is that all the members of the congregation had the same status, and that the power lie with the local congregations, and the congregations then would elect among them their leaders, and the congregations then would invite the ministers that they wanted to minister to them. Sounds very similar to how we do things today. What they would do was not gather around a creed, but rather a covenant. They would enter this covenant by signing a promise, or say, I don't know, a book upon their membership. Each church wrote its own covenant. Some were long and some were very short. All this sounding very familiar still. One of the first covenants, was the Covenant of the Salem Church, and it was written in 1629, and it's a good example of the kind of covenants that these churches would gather around. The Salem Covenant says, "We covenant with the Lord and with one another, and do bind ourselves in the presence of God to walk together in all his ways, according as he is pleased to reveal himself unto us in his blessed word of truth." So we might change some of the words, some of the pronouns, some of the language around what we conceive to be that ultimate reality, but in general, we still do this today. We covenant together to agree to walk together to reveal truth among us. Now the question then becomes, what is this truth revealed? How doth he reveal his truth? Where is religious authority to be found? Well, Puritans found those questions and answers in the covenant and the local church, but they disagreed exactly on what that looked like. The covenantal Unitarian Universalist scholar Alice Blair Wesley would say, "They granted ultimate religious authority solely to that convincing power of truth evident in the understandings reached and tested over time by a body of loving individuals, mutually pledged faithfully to seek and to heed truth together in ongoing community." So this is the opposite of what they had fled in England, the capital C church. There was, in their new form of having church together, there was no external authority. There were no bishops. There was no heavy-handed church to tell them what to do. There was no, even the local governance in their town did not have dominion over the church. It was just them. and this is how they gathered. This was known as the Standing Order of the New England Way, a community of independent churches, each governed solely by the members, and yet in relationship with each. So each church individual, but they hung out together, all the churches. So the ministers would trade pulpits, and if there was an ordination or a funeral over here, then this church would go over there and support that church. If there was conflict in a church, then maybe they would go to this church and say, hey, we've got this going on, can you help us out? And all the churches played well. Until. Dun dun dun. So all these shiploads of immigrants to our country, they were looking to constitute some new way of doing church, some new way of being in relationship. And it was harmonious at first, but not for long, as things go. This first generation of Puritans, they argued with intensity and with scathing bitterness about whether or not people who lived righteously among them needed a state of grace. Like, if I'm living well enough, if I'm doing good works, is that good enough? Or is there something else at play? And here we get the theological divide between the free will Arminians, those are our people, and the predestination Calvinists. Those are nice people, but they're not our history people. And the official lines were drawn. Predestination, or as it works in how we are in the world. And so this first generation of folks, what they would do is to become a part of the church. You would testify in front of the church about your religious experience, maybe a conversion experience that you had, and then you would respond to some questions from the gathered church, and then you could join that church after having acknowledged that you were a sinner and that the church was there for your salvation. Well, all those Puritans, believe it or not, had kids. They did things that made them have kids. The Puritans were not always puritanical. They had kids, and so the second generation of people, of churchgoers in New England, they weren't, imagine like the younger hippie kids of the first generation. And they weren't all down with this whole thing of gathering in front of the church, professing their life story and their religious experience in front of the church. They just decided maybe that wasn't for them. And so church membership started to go down. Well, that wasn't going to work, so they had to figure out what to do about that. I mean, these kids, they loved going to church. They just didn't want to share that kind of conversion experience that maybe in their parents' life made sense, that was important to them, but not for these new youngsters. So, since church was going down, church membership, they did what they needed to do. They just changed the rules, which is a good way to boost church membership. They adopted what was called the controversial halfway covenant. The halfway covenant, right? The halfway covenant, not the whole one, but your good enough covenant. It gave the right of membership and the privilege of membership to those who were living an upright and upstanding life, who had been baptized and reared as children in the church, but they need not maybe do that public profession part. And it worked. Church attendance went up. But it didn't solve the underlying problem of what leads to that spiritual life. There were varying ways to be spiritual and ways that people develop their spiritual identity and experiences. There was word on high from the Bible, or there was individual and community growth together. We're getting closer to the controversy. So in 1734, church attendance was down again. Are you seeing a pattern? It's almost like churches have to keep reinventing themselves to attract younger members. So a sudden wave of revivals happened. They're like, all right, let's make church snazzier. Let's get more excited, bring in more emotion. It was known as the First Great Awakening. And so some folks loved this. They were like, yeah, let's go to church and wave our hands and be super emotional and sometimes hysterical. And then there were those other folks who had their arms crossed and said, I don't think so. These were the Armenians. These are, again, our people. The stodgy, over-intellectual curmudgeons, perhaps, but theologically grounded. They said that human will and activity play an important part in the role of salvation, that it's not just this Calvinist predestination, which is to say God already knows if you're going to heaven or not when you show up here on earth. So the Arminians, the pre-Unitarians, they engaged in biblically based criticism of the Trinity and of other orthodox doctrines, and they used reason as their tool. They said, we've been endowed with reason in our brain, let's use it to read the Bible. Again, Alice Blair Wesley says that the writings of Isaac Newton and John Locke influenced these early Puritans. The Arminian Congregationalists and many others saw in Newton's orderly universe evidence of the work of God. From Locke, they learned that human beings are not born with a set of innate ideas, but that all ideas come from experience. And on this basis, Arminians could envision the potential for continuous development of the human mind, including the refinement of morality and the other aspects of religious character. I know what you're thinking. It's burning inside you. That sounds like the birth of modern American liberal religion. Yes, you're right. Liberal religion being that religion which is not necessarily politically liberal, but liberal as in free to change over time and adapt as the world adapts around us. All right, so side note, the American Revolution happens. All right. By the close of the 18th century, many of the largest churches had become liberal in their theology. The ministers and lay people were openly followed this Arminian rational way of being Christian. They were not confrontational, mind you. They were Unitarian, small u Unitarian, in their belief that God was one. They rejected the Trinity as biblically, scholarly unsound. They also said unsound were these Calvinist doctrines of original sin, total depravity, predestination. So add to that the Trinity, and you've got a pretty strong refutation of what the Orthodox Church was at the day. Instead of these radical liberals, religionists, adopted the positive doctrines of the nature of humanity and the possibility of a continued moral, spiritual, and intellectual growth over time. So they weren't, the Unitarians, the pre-Unitarians, the Arminians, they weren't looking to mix it up, all right? They were fine to fly under the radar. The Orthodox folks, they had the loudest pulpits. And they didn't really consider what they had done that radical because it happened over time. They just thought, this is a good way to be religious. Let's just keep learning, keep growing. And that's what they did. So they didn't argue about it. They said the Orthodox can have their way, we'll have our way, no big deal. Well, in response to this, some of those Orthodox churches started creeping away from covenantalism, which is a promise, a statement of how we're going to be together. And they started nudging in some creedal stuff, which is to say, this is what we all believe together. Well, that was a pretty good line in the sand for these congregational churches. There were those who were beginning to form creeds, and there were those who were retaining this old form, this Puritan ideal of walking together, and then what they would call Christian love. Well, it just so happened that all of those Calvinist churches, they stopped inviting the Arminians to trade pulpits. They stopped going and supporting one another at their marriages and funerals. They stopped engaging each other across the town lines when something was going wrong in their churches. And they said, they don't believe like we do. We'll just do our thing. We'll let them do their thing. And it simmered like that for a while until the Hollis chair, the endowed chair at Harvard University, had to be filled because, you see, Dr. Tappan had died, and he was a Trinitarian. And so would the chair be filled by someone who believed in the Trinitarian structure, God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? Or would it be filled with someone with a Unitarian ideology, that God is one and Jesus was in relationship with God? The future of Harvard hung on this decision. And it was, after great deliberation of many, many years, they were putting it off, you see. They didn't want to do it. And so the chair sat empty for many years. And finally, one day, because the Hollis donation to the chair originally came in with the expectation that the position would be filled by someone committed to broad theological principles rather than a rigid dogma, they finally installed Henry Ware in 1805 as the Hollis endowed chair. And the crowd went wild. Yay! Yay! All right, because it was an important moment in our history. So as went Harvard, so went the pulpits in England. And so the Calvinists said, well, that hurts. So they established their own at Andover Newton. So now you have two main theological schools, one Unitarian, Harvard, and one Trinitarian, Andover Newton. And that's how it happened. It just split right down the middle. Whereas appointment was an existential threat to the Orthodox Congregationalists. They thought that these Unitarians, they're gathering steam. And this is heresy, you see. Well, again, we still didn't want to, mix it up. We were fine to let the Orthodox have their thing. And in 1815, there's a Calvinist named Jedediah Morse who accused these radical liberal ministers of dishonesty, and they said that they are, in fact, actually Unitarians. He used the word Unitarians, and he didn't use it nicely. He called us Unitarians, right? It was meant as a slander. William Ellery Channing, the father of American Unitarianism, said, originally, can't we just get along, everybody? And when he realized it wasn't going to happen, he preached a sermon in 1819 called Unitarian Christianity. It was the first time this word Unitarian had been used to begin to gather together all these congregational churches who believed in this more liberal way of being. He spoke at the ordination of Jared Sparks in Baltimore. The sermon is also known as the Baltimore Sermon. And he took that occasion to make clear that this way of believing in Christianity would do so with reason. He talked for an hour and a half. It was not an accident. They were laying out how Unitarians would believe. First, he said we were going to use reason. And then he said we believe in the unity of God as opposed to the Trinity, and that Christ was fully human. And he spoke to the moral perfection of God, which meant there could be no original sin or eternal suffering. And he said that Jesus' mission on earth wasn't to atone for our sins, but it was for, I don't know. We believe different things. You believe he's a great teacher. You believe in the redemptive suffering of dying for what you believe in. He said, we're not going to proclaim exactly what Jesus' mission was here. We just know that he was a righteous dude, and we're going to follow his example. And his fifth and final point was that Christian virtue has its foundation in the moral conscience. So pamphlets were distributed, they were copied, they were sold in tens of thousands, and in this way, the Unitarian movement started in earnest in this country. And in 1825, a group of ministers got together, and they formed the American Unitarian Association. The Calvinist congregations, they got together, and they formed their own entity. And so all these congregations, some of them right down the middle, sometimes the congregation had both factions in them. Again, Alice Blair Wesley said, eventually the argument came down really to who owned the communion silver and who owned the building. Many churches split. Eventually, it would be that if you had a Harvard graduate in your pulpit, you were a Unitarian church. And if you had an Andover Newton minister in your pulpit, well then, by Jove, you were a Trinitarian church and followed the Calvinist path. There were about 250 of the New England's original parishes took on the name Unitarian. And by the mid-19th century, the Calvinists and the Unitarian heirs of the Puritans had completely gone their separate ways. All these people who had come over to play nice and began their churches together created two different branches of Christianity in this country, ours being, of course, the Unitarian side. There is a happy ending after all this. On the other side, the Congregationalist churches merged in 1957 with other churches that had their roots in the German Reformed tradition, and they formed the United Church of Christ, who also still share our congregational polity. The Unitarians merged with the Universalists in 1961 and created the Unitarian Universalist Association, of which now we are a part. And, here's the big happy bow at the end, the UCC Church and the Unitarian Universalist Church got together in the 80s and created the curriculum around sexuality and health and spirituality education, Our Whole Lives, or OWL. So after all that time, the two congregationalist sides came back together to do some work for our people. Their version of owl looks a little different than ours, but that can work. So in this way, we share our history. Now, I'm so tempted by the current events box, you all. I'm so tempted by the current events box. Can I just, for a second, just really quick. No? Okay. Negligible. Mind me. Given current events and given our history, it is always good to look to the lessons of the past, of course. The lessons of the past teach us about how we might live in the future and in the present. The lessons of the past teach us about our mistakes, and they teach us about how it is we did things well. So for us, this story of our Unitarian ancestors teaches us about the value of walking together, about the value of diversity of opinion and idea and lives and lifestyles and life histories and life paths. It reminds us of the importance of reason as we engage the world around us. Reason, not just emotional response, not just believing what we hope and want, but coming down to reason, be it science, fact-based news, or peer reviews. Reason is a darn good place to land. And evolving values as we are a community together. These are the lessons from our past that we carry into our present day and our current future. We trust in each other, not that we will always all get it right, not that because we're liberal Christian, our liberal Christian path has provided us this multi-pluralistic religion that we now share. We trust not that we are all going to always get it right, but this idea of walking together over time, being humble enough to say we don't have all the answers, none of us is perfect, but that we covenant together, to be curious about the ways that the divine unfolding happens, that will reveal itself to us if we pay attention and if we are listening. We just trust that together, in walking together, that we discern the work of love, and that love can guide our path. May it be so.
Please rise and embody your spirit. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time we come. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. What a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
We invite you to join us after our service today for coffee hour, where we hope that you will reach out to somebody that you don't know yet and just say, I'm curious about who you are. Let's have a brief conversation before I grab my coffee or go find somebody that I know, and we'll just slink off for a conversation. And now we say our covenant with a much grander idea of the historical value and place of covenant in our Unitarian side history. Love is the spirit of this fellowship.
And service is the law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Love is the spirit of this fellowship. And service is its law. This is our covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. May it be so. Go in peace, go for justice, and go with love.